Hello, it's time for science. And so I'd like you to get your science textbook. I thought for today I would read to you. And so with this option, I would really appreciate it if you would follow along because your ability to comprehend what's being read will improve and go up as you read along with me. So we're going to start on page 14 in your science book. And as you know, we're in Unit 1, and it is titled Earth's Water. And we're ready for Lesson 2, which is the water cycle. So again, we're starting on page 14. And right there, that picture, one of Mrs. Lynn's favorite sights, a good thunderstorm. Anyway, so page 14, page 15, I'm going to actually start reading on page 16. So again, please follow along and make the most of this. Utilize this opportunity to really comprehend what's going on. Just be fully present for this short amount of time. What is the water cycle? Movement of water between the atmosphere, land, oceans, and even living things makes up the water cycle. Rain, snow, and hail fall on the oceans and land because of gravity. On land, ice and water flow downhill. Water flows in streams, rivers, and waterfalls, such as the one in the photo, because of gravity. If the land is flat, water will collect in certain areas, forming ponds, lakes, and marshland. Some water will soak through the ground and collect underground as groundwater. Even groundwater flows downhill. Water and snow can move upward if they turn into water vapor and rise into the air. Plants and animals also release water vapor into the air. In the air, water vapor can travel great distances with the wind. Winds can also move the water in the surface layer of the ocean by creating ocean currents. When ocean currents reach the shore of colder climates, the water will sink if it is cold enough or salty enough. The sinking water creates currents at different depths in the ocean. These are some of the ways in which water travels all over Earth. Now at the top of page 17, how does water change state? Water is found in 3 states on Earth: as liquid water, as solid water, ice, and as gaseous water vapor. Water is visible as a liquid or a solid, but it is invisible as a gas in the air. Water can change from one state to another as energy is absorbed or released. Water absorbs energy from its surroundings as it melts from solid to liquid. Water also absorbs energy when it evaporates from liquid to gas, or when it sublimates from solid to gas. Water releases energy into its surroundings when it condenses from gas to liquid. Water also releases energy when it freezes from liquid to solid, or deposits from gas to solid. No water is lost during these changes. So here at the figure, this number 7, visualize it, analyze. You can see you go from water vapor at the top circle to liquid water to ice, and to go between, energy is released by water and energy is absorbed by water. You can tell by the arrows. The blue arrow is energy being released by water, and the red arrow is energy absorbed. So to go from ice to water vapor, through sublimation, energy is absorbed by the water and goes to water vapor. From water vapor to ice, energy is released by water and by deposition. And you can see the example then over water vapor to liquid water. The red arrow from liquid water to water vapor is evaporation. And from water vapor to liquid water, you have condensation. Freezing from liquid water, energy released by water to ice, and melting, energy absorbed by water as it goes from ice to liquid water. Turn to page 18. How does water reach the atmosphere? Water reaches the atmosphere as water vapor in 3 ways: evaporation, transpiration, and sublimation. It takes a lot of energy for liquid or solid water to turn into water vapor. The energy for these changes comes mostly from the sun as solar energy. The first one in the red, they're talking about evaporation. Evaporation occurs when liquid water changes into water vapor. About 90% of the water in the atmosphere comes from the evaporation of Earth's water. Some water evaporates from the water on land. However, most of the water vapor evaporates from Earth's oceans. This is because oceans cover most of the Earth's surface. Therefore, oceans receive most of the solar energy that reaches Earth. Transpiration. Like many organisms, plants release water into the environment. Liquid water turns into water vapor inside the plant and moves into the atmosphere through the stomata. Stomata are tiny holes that are found on some plant surfaces. This release of water vapor into the air by plants is called transpiration. About 10% of the water in the atmosphere comes from transpiration. So you notice if you are in a jungle area or in a rainforest, it's hot and humid. That's because there's a lot of water in the air because of transpiration. Next, we have sublimation. When solid water changes directly to water vapor without first becoming a liquid, it is called sublimation. Sublimation can happen when dry air blows over ice or snow, where it is very cold and the pressure is low. A small amount of the water in the atmosphere comes from sublimation. Top of page 19. What happens to water in the atmosphere? Water reaches the atmosphere as water vapor. In the atmosphere, water vapor mixes with other gases. To leave the atmosphere, water vapor must change into liquid or solid water. Then the liquid or solid water can fall to the Earth's surface. Condensation. Remember, condensation is the change of state from a gas to a liquid. If air that contains water vapor is cooled enough, condensation occurs. Some of the water vapor condenses on small particles such as dust, forming little balls or tiny droplets of water. These water droplets float in the air as clouds, fog, or mist. At the ground level, water vapor may condense on cool surfaces as dew. Precipitation. In clouds, water droplets may collide and stick together to become larger. If a droplet becomes large enough, it falls to Earth's surface as precipitation. Precipitation is any form of water that falls to Earth from clouds. 3 common kinds of precipitation shown in the photos are rain, snow, and hail. Snow and hail form if the water droplets freeze. Most rain falls into the oceans because most water evaporates from ocean's surface and oceans cover most of Earth's surface. But winds carry clouds from the ocean over land, increasing the amount of precipitation that falls on land. Turn to page 20. How does water move on land and in the oceans? After water falls to Earth, it flows and circulates all over Earth. On land, water flows downhill, both on the surface and underground. However, most of Earth's precipitation falls into the oceans. Ocean currents move water around the oceans. Runoff and infiltration. All of the water on land flows downhill because of gravity. Streams, rivers, and the water that flows over land are types of runoff. Runoff flows downhill toward oceans, lakes, and marshlands. Some of the water on the land seeps into the ground. This process is called infiltration. Once underground, the water is called groundwater. Groundwater also flows downhill through soil and rock. Ice flow. Much of Earth's ice is stored in large ice caps in Antarctica and Greenland. Some ice is stored in glaciers at high altitudes all over Earth. Glaciers cover about 10% of the Earth's surface. Glaciers can be called rivers of ice because gravity also causes glaciers to flow slowly downhill. Many glaciers never leave land. However, some glaciers flow to the ocean, where pieces may break off, seen in the photo, and float far out to sea as icebergs. So you can see the example in the picture to the left, that glacier is calving Ocean circulation. Winds move ocean water on the surface in great currents, sometimes for thousands of miles. At some shores, or if the water is very cold or salty, it will sink deep into the ocean. This movement helps create deep ocean currents. Both surface currents and deep ocean currents transport large amounts of water from ocean to ocean. Page 21, waterworks. What does the water cycle transport? In the water cycle, each state of water has some energy in it. This energy is released into or absorbed from its surroundings as water changes state. The energy in each state of water is then transported as the water moves from place to place. Matter is also transported as water and the materials in the water move all over the earth. Therefore, the water cycle moves energy and matter through Earth's atmosphere, land, oceans, and living things. Energy. Energy is transported in the water cycle through changes of state and by the movement of water from place to place. For example, water that evaporates from the ocean carries energy into the atmosphere. This movement of energy can generate hurricanes. Also, cold ocean currents can cool the air along a coastline by absorbing the energy from the air and leaving the air cooler. This energy is carried away quickly as the current continues on its path. Such processes affect the weather and climate of an area. Matter. Earth's ocean currents move vast amounts of water all over the world. These currents also transport the solids in the water and the dissolved salts and gases. Rivers transfer water from land into the ocean. Rivers also carry large amounts of sand, mud, and gravel, as shown below. Notice the coloration of that water and the change depending on what's being carried in the water. Rivers also carry large amounts of sand, mud, and gravel as shown below. Rivers from deltas and floodplains where some of the materials from upstream collect in areas downstream. Rivers also carve valleys and canyons and carry the excess materials downstream. Glaciers also grind away rock and carry the ground rock with them as they flow. Now, if you'll turn to page 22 and page 23, you will see the water cycle. And I just kind of going to let you, once this video is over, you can look over that yourself and just take a peek at it. And then we will go in more into that tomorrow so that you can fully understand it. So the water cycle, that is the end for this reading section. So that was Unit 1, Earth's Water, and it was Lesson 2. And that is your assignment today for science, that you just kind of were totally present and focused. And that's kind of a goal for this virtual schooling. You have the luxury now of having a pause button. So if you need a little break to stand up and go get a drink, just try to train yourself to be able to be attentive for longer and longer periods of time. And that's part of the whole maturation process of being in school and becoming educated, that you can learn more and more about the subjects as well as learning more and more about yourself and the way you learn. So I hope it helped with the reading, and that's it for science today. Unless you wanted an assignment, you probably didn't.